And we're taking you now to the Prime Minister, who is delivering remarks at the National Caucus holiday party. This comes against that continued political turmoil in the Liberal Party. Let's listen in.
Now, like most families, sometimes we have fights around the holidays. But of course, like most families, we find our way through it. You know, I love this country. I deeply love this party. I love you guys. And love is what families are all about. Ça fait du bien de vous voir. Merci.
It's wonderful to see you.
Thank
you. Thank you, Brenda, for your words of introductions and all the work you do. And thank you, of course, to Colette Commanda for her wonderful message. It's always important to remember our history and all the reasons why we are so lucky to live here together in Canada. Thank you.
Before I go any further, I want to give a shout out to Madison, our candidate for yesterday's by-election in BC. And to every single Liberal who was on the ground or on the phone these past weeks to get out the vote. You all worked incredibly hard. I thank you for carrying our colours and the message out to the people of Cloverdale, Langley City. I was there on the ground seeing all of you and seeing all of them, and it was absolutely awesome. But I was also out there at Terry Fox Secondary School celebrating the fact that a real Canadian hero is there on the $5 bill. It's great to see so many of you here tonight, especially those who came from across the country to be here with us. Especially good to see staff from constituency offices. Who here works in Constit? Now it's not that I like you more than I do Ottawa staffers. It's just I see those guys all the time. The work Constit staffers do is really the basis of everything we do here in Ottawa. You are the ones on the front lines, helping the people in your community, dealing with the hard cases day in and day out, making a direct and tangible difference in the lives of Canadians. Yeah, everyone stand up for our Constit staffers. You make sure that MPs remain their community's voices here in Ottawa and not Ottawa's voice in their communities. You are the ones who know how people feel, what people think. You listen to Canadians' concerns, and without that, without your input, the work we do here in Ottawa would be impossible. I mean, think about it. Many of those who come into the office to ask for your help are coming to tell you about what maybe is the most important thing in their lives at that moment. They put their trust in you, and every single day you are deserving of that trust. Canadians and all of us here tonight owe you a massive debt of gratitude. And by the way, I want to take this opportunity to thank someone in particular, someone who celebrated her 30th year in working in a constituency office for Lawrence Macaulay, Nancy Stewart. Nancy! Let's give her a huge round of applause. Nancy, you're an inspiration to us all. Think about it, 30 years spent at the service of your community is incredible. But 30 years of making Lawrence Macaulay look good, even more incredible. Even Francis can't believe it. Speaking of constituency staff, I need to give a very special shout out to people who've been there for me and, more importantly, for the people of Papineau for so long. On peut-tu, s'il vous plaît, prendre un moment pour donner une main d'applaudissement à Stavroula,
Can we
Rana,
please
India,
applaud
Alex et Rebecca.
Skabrula, Rana, India, Alex, and Rebecca? Thank you to my team.
Now, constituency staff really deserve the holiday break that's coming up shortly. But the same goes for every staffer in this room. As time goes on, I'm even more and more impressed by your professionalism, your dedication, and your hard work. When times get tough, you step up. You concentrate on the only thing that really matters, fighting like hell every single day to make life better for Canadians. Thank you to everyone in this room for everything you do. Now, our caucus members deserve praise as well, along with anybody here who works in Parle Affairs. Avec tout le niaisage en chambre et les comités qui ont été transformés en cirque.
So with all the lost time that we've seen in the different chambers, Conservatives keep showing that they have little respect for institutions, but you keep being there every day to defend what is done for this country. Thank you very much.
In politics, there's always tough days and big challenges. But this team doesn't hold the record for the longest minority in Canadian history because we shy away from these moments. We put in the work, whether it's easy or hard. Dans les périodes difficiles, c'est pas le temps de baisser les bras.
In difficult times, it's not time to stop. It's time to be ambitious, audacious, and this is how we build a stronger Canada, and this is what everybody wants, except for the Bloc. The Bloc looks for conflict. They're disconnected from the priorities of those in Quebec. Housing is a priority for those in Quebec, and the Bloc has voted against what we have proposed, despite the fact that thousands of houses are being built in Quebec. Health is also a priority for Quebec, and Bloc has voted against the dental program that is helping Canadians save hundreds of dollars. Environment is a priority for people in Quebec, but the Bloc voted with the Conservatives against what the federal government is doing against pollution and doesn't even apply to Quebec. Like, come on. The Bloc says one thing to the people in Quebec, and then once they're in Ottawa, they do something different. I mean, how about following what one says? French is also a priority for all those who speak French, and Bloc has voted against record investments to protect and promote French. But as we all know, French people outside of Quebec, the Bloc doesn't care about them, and the only party that defends French people all over this country, and it is the Liberal Party of Canada.
All right, and I just spoke French for a solid stretch there. Stay with us, Toronto. You can look up the translation online tomorrow. Je me demande comment ils ont traduit tabarouette. As a team,
I wonder how they translated one of my darn type expressions.
Inflation, so much conflict and suffering around the world, international law being trampled, the very foundations of democracy being attacked. I've been wondering, is there such a thing as precedented times? And if so, could we please have some of those? When I look at you tonight, I'm reminded of the strength of our party, of our history. We're the Grits. On est le rouge. We've lived and led through 150 years of Canadian history. We were there for Canadians through the Spanish flu, the Great Depression, 2 world wars, the Cold War. We've seen tough times before, and we pulled through, because when we pull together, when Canadians pull together, nothing, and I mean nothing, can stop us. Over 150 years of Liberal history. In the meantime, the Conservatives have changed their names multiple times and changed their values more times than I can count. I mean, call me old-fashioned, but I remember when Conservative stood for protecting our institutions instead of trying to tear them down. I mean, just look at their current leader. His slogans are all about cutting taxes, but put an actual tax cut on the table, and he votes against it. He voted against a tax break for Canadians over these Christmas holidays. He voted to make, when he was a minister, he voted to make life harder for unions, to make it harder for workers to organize. But today, he pretends to stand with them. He voted repeatedly against the right to abortion. But now he tries to claim he's pro-choice. Let me be clear. Being pro-choice means standing up to the people who would take away that freedom, and that would mean standing up to his own party, which he won't do. Now, don't get me wrong. Believing in a woman's right to choose would be a good start for Conservatives. But as Liberals, we just don't believe in a woman's right to choose. We're ready to fight for it every single day. It has become abundantly clear that Pierre Poilievre will say anything, do anything, just to get elected. But there is one thing that hasn't changed: Conservatives' obsession with cutting programs that actually help people. It seems the only thing that Pierre Poilievre of Christmas Past and Christmas Present can agree on. With Pierre Poilievre's cuts, you pay the price. But Canadians know where the Liberal Party of Canada stands. We stand for an economy that is fairer, greener, and stronger. An economy that works for everyone, not just the richest few. We stand for safer communities, free from assault-style rifles designed for battlefields. We stand for a woman's right to choose. We stand for the right to be who you are and love whom you love. On se tient debout pour notre culture. On se tient debout pour nos langues officielles.
We stand for our culture.
We stand for the rights of linguistic
We stand for our official languages. We stand.
And Anglophones inside of Quebec.
That means Francophones outside of Quebec.
We stand for reconciliation. We stand against those who think they can exploit the vulnerable. We stand against hate and division. We stand with workers and the middle class. We stand with Canadians. We stand up for Canada. Merci, mes amis. Thank you so much. Joyeux Noël.
Thank you, my friends. Merry Christmas.
Merci, mes amis.
Thank you, my friends.
Well, that was the Prime Minister there delivering remarks at the Liberal Party Caucus annual holiday party. This is amid calls for his resignations. He started off there by making light almost of the turmoil within the Liberal Party, saying, like many families, he said, sometimes families fight amid the holidays. He also took aim at the Bloc, the Conservatives as well, not naming Pierre Poilievre by his name, but instead referring to him as the Grinch. Clearly, they're attempting to boost morale after what has been a very trying and turbulent week for the Liberal Party of Canada. I want to bring in my next guest here to talk about this and about Justin Trudeau's future. Christine DeClercy is a political leadership expert. She joins us now from Peterborough, Ontario. Welcome to the program. Thank you so much, Christine, for taking the time.
Thank you.
Okay, you were listening in there. There was a lot of clapping. There was cheering. Let's not distract from the very real concerns that people within the Liberal Party had. People from outside the Liberal Party also had about the party this week. I want to get your take. What was your takeaway from listening to him speak there?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of speculation about will Mr. Trudeau cave into the demands from inside and outside his party that he resign his office. That really didn't sound to me like a guy who's walking out the door, to be honest.
Some Liberal MPs have expressed their, we know, strong disagreement for sure within Trudeau's decision, I should say, to fire Freeland from the finance minister position. How divided do you think the Liberals are right now on the Prime Minister's leadership?
Certainly the Liberal Caucus has a group that has been dissatisfied with him and his approach to politics, his approach to the coming election for several months now. And Ms. Freeland's resignation certainly only has added fuel to that discontent. Nevertheless, I think it's important as the dust settles from her resignation to remember that Mr. Trudeau was able to secure a very competent replacement for her very quickly, Mr. LeBlanc, and he has actually a pretty deep bench. He has quite a solid cabinet behind him with many talented individuals. So at this point, his caucus in the House of Commons looks relatively united, given the events that have happened and yesterday's unexpected resignation.
I mean, given that, perhaps, but I do wonder, Christine, because there are serious concerns from people. I mean, Chrystia Freeland is not some backbencher who was pretty quiet. She was pretty loud. She was pretty vocal. I'm wondering, and other members of his own party, let alone the other parties, have come out calling for him to step down. I'm wondering why you feel Trudeau won't step down right now.
Well, there's a few things, and you know, I mean, I like most people listening to this interview, I'm not privy to his internal calculations, of course, but first of all, we have to remember in our system of government, he is primus inter pares. That means he is the first minister. And that means for our government, for the cabinet, he sets the direction and the other members of his cabinet take marching orders. And clearly what happened with Ms. Freeland, as she wrote in her letter, is that her and the Prime Minister reached a point where he did not have faith in her capacity. And she recognized this and did the correct thing and stepped down, although rather dramatically given the circumstances. Second, I do believe that Mr. Trudeau is his father's son. Pierre Trudeau was not a person to be pushed around by the opposition parties or by the press or even by people within his own party. And I think Justin is very much in the mold of his father. You know, when you think about it, Justin Trudeau has been subject to quite a stressful fall inside and outside of the House of Commons, and yet he's maintained a very strong, durable, engaging, resolute demeanor. I think we saw that in tonight's speech to the Liberal Party caucus that we just heard. So I don't think it's in his character and his training as a prime minister to cave in, particularly to opposition leaders calling for his resignation. And third, I think he won't resign, at least in the short term, partly because I don't think that plan of action right now would serve the Liberal Party. It's worth remembering he lost not only a finance minister yesterday, but the deputy prime minister, i.e. his most obvious successor. So the split between Mr. Trudeau and Ms. Freeland leaves a bit of a succession issue. Who would succeed him, and how could they ever do it in the very short amount of time, that is to say, change a leader before the next election? So given these factors at this point, I think the probability is he will probably not step down.
I want to ask you about the future before we let you go. We know Trudeau has survived 3 non-confidence votes, mainly because of the support of the NDP. Yesterday, though, Jagmeet Singh was one of those who called on Trudeau to resign. So if the Conservatives introduce a 4th no-confidence vote, what is the chance, do you feel, that Trudeau will survive it again?
Well, it's tough to estimate the probabilities. I will say this. It looked earlier this fall like his government might not even survive this fall without suffering the non-confidence, and yet they made it to this point in time. I think Mr. Singh is in a very tough position. On the one hand, he is a liberal government that has been influenced by his party, has brought in policies that the New Democrats clearly agree with and clearly support: national dental, national school food program, as examples. So it's a difficult calculation. Is it worth bringing down a government that at the current time is providing goods and services to key constituents that the New Democrats advocate for? Or has he decided that his support of this government truly is at an end and fresh elections ought to be held, which may well bring in the Conservatives, who might be, who probably won't be as open to the sorts of policies that the New Democrats have pursued in collaboration with the Liberals.
We will leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much, Christine, for joining us. That was Christine de Clercy, a political leadership expert, joining us from Peterborough, Ontario.